Hi everyone, welcome back to this channel after what seems like an eternity. 35 days, I think to be exact. It has been more than a month since I last uploaded, and the topic of this video that I wanted to actually talk about is about postponement and delaying the exam. And this video has also exactly been delayed. The irony. When I heard the rumors that the exam might get postponed, I was thinking back to this same time last year when people were talking about getting our exam postponed as well. And back then I was like, win-win situation. If it gets postponed, I get more time to study. If it doesn't get postponed, I know that I am more confident in my preparation compared to maybe others who haven't been studying all year. I looked at it as if it was a win-win situation, but a whopping 5 months to go. It's going to happen in July. I have no idea for what joy it is going to happen in July. As you can tell, I am frustrated as a first year resident, but let's keep that aspect of all of this aside and let's only talk about this postponement and how it has affected you already. I am sure people have already processed the information, have already gone through the 5 stages of grief, and now they are at the acceptance phase where they are like, chalo ho gaya to ho gaya, let's move on and look at what we can do. Still, I'm going to share some things which are there on my mind about mindset, how exactly to go about the next 5 months, and how your schedule which we had come up with for when we thought the exam was going to be in March, so how that schedule is going to look like now, and how you can maximize the extra time you're getting without getting stuck in a cycle of overthinking and unproductive crap. So without postponing this any further, let's get into it. The first thing that I want to talk about, actually I'm pretty sure is sorted already for most of you, which is the mindset surrounding postponement. You might be overthinking about how it is entirely messed up with your plan for the year, with your plan for getting done with internship, for your plan around graduating. You are going to feel like you're wasting more months, like you were so ready to give this exam and now it has suddenly been postponed, and that momentum which you had gained towards the end before the exam, that momentum has now been stumped. You are now unable to get over that inertia of starting again, being able to study that passionately when you think that the exam is close, not being able to continue that anymore now that you know the exam is far away. Out of all of this, one thing which I want to ask you is, what is in your hands right now? Forget about everything else, thinking that these extra 5 months you're going to give for the exam, but if the results are not what you're expecting them to be like, then you'll feel like you wasted these 5 months entirely. We are all very prone to get sucked into a negative spiral of overthinking, coming up with the worst possible scenarios in any situation. That is fine, that is human nature, that is our coping mechanism, so that we don't feel bamboozled when that actually happens. And it is human nature to come up with such scenarios, but it is extremely counterproductive when these scenarios start affecting your motivation, your momentum of studying, your purpose of putting in those extra hours every day, studying with that enthusiasm, when you know that the exam is here and you know that you're so close to the finishing line, you just need to push a little harder. So when that finishing line itself gets pushed back, you are left with a hollow shell where all these positive thoughts and positive things which are driving you to study till now, they are all gone, and now you are just stuck with a timetable which you had made long time ago when you were motivated, and now you have to forcibly follow this timetable. My one major advice to you is, always look at what is in your hand. You can control the intensity of your studying, the method of your studying, schedule which you've made. You can change it. You don't have to blindly follow the schedule you were following up till now. You can customize things so that they suit you better the way you are feeling right now. So we're going to talk in detail about what we can do, what actions we can actively take, instead of just sitting moping around that, oh shit, the timetable which I made was so perfect for the March date of the exam, and now I am just all over the place. I feel like a mess. I can't get myself to fall into a study routine again. Let's try and get over all that negativity and let's focus on what we can do, and let's focus on this positively so we can actually become productive and make most of the time which we inevitably are going to have for the next 5 months. Let's look into what timetable changes we can make. First positive thought is, you can relax and you can slow down. By January, we were all rushing to get things done. Like, you're solving an MCQ, you come across a concept that you don't quite fully understand, but you look at it and you think, I don't have time to understand this concept right from scratch right now. I just want to get done with this MCQ, understand what is the right answer, and kind of memorize it as a shortcut, and then remember it for all the similar MCQs which are going to come my way way later. You're trying to come up with shortcuts, you're trying to come up with tricks and tips to understand things, which is not wrong. It is obviously fine when you're running short on time. But guess what? Now you have a lot of time. Slow down for some time. When you come across something that you don't know, look at it as a point of improvement, and instead of just trying to figure out where you are wrong, try and figure out why you are wrong. What preconceived notions do you have about this topic which need to be changed? What are some new concepts which you have subconsciously you've been resistant to learning? So that's the kind of restricted thinking we all had because we felt like we were running short on time, we were trying to rush things through. So now you can take a step back, you can relax, and you can look at things clearly. And I know this sounds like rubbish advice because it does not sound very helpful, but I want to give you a reassurance that somewhere you have been ignoring certain topics and you've been ignoring certain things because you felt like if I put my hands deep into this right now, I am going to be stuck in this and I don't have enough time to invest in this one topic right now. It's not going to be that high yielding. I don't even know if this is going to be asked in the exam or not. Whereas that was the right thing to do and you were prioritizing things correctly and you were managing time well. If the exam was in March, now that the exam is in July, the only wise next step would be to clear all these misconceptions which you have and to get over any sources of mistakes or underconfidence which you might have, so that by the time the exam comes around, you're going to be so confident that your knowledge is not lacking at any level and you have not used shortcuts or you have not used superficial ways to remember things. You actually know your shit and you can be pretty confident about it. I know that already half of Jan is over since the news of postponement came out and 1 week of Feb is also over. I had a rough timetable in my mind and I wanted to share it with you guys, and as usual the timetable is more suited to somebody who is a slow reader like me and it manages to cover 2 revisions. If you are somebody who is already following the schedule you had made, that is great, but if you wanted to come up with a new schedule entirely, or if you feel like the schedule you were already following till now has not been doing you any good and you want to start from scratch again, I'm sure that this can be of some help to you. So for the months of Feb, March and April, that is for these 3 months, you are going to take time and finish a proper solid revision of everything all together. You're going to use your big notes right now, that is, you're not going to use the shorter version of notes that you have made, because this is again a good opportunity for you to completely have a photographic memory of the notes you have made and you have read all year. Along with this, you have to now step up with your GT frequencies, but you don't have to get too crazy about it because again you have a lot of time. So instead of giving 2-3 GTs every week and scrambling to review them, you can now just give 1 GT per week. Up till now maybe you were giving 1 GT every 2 weeks. Now you can shift to 1 GT per week. That is, I think, an ideal frequency for the next 3 months. Even if you're giving 1 GT and you're managing to review all 200 MCQs for that 1 week, you're managing to do 200 MCQs every week, and that is plenty of MCQs for you to practice over the next 3 months. For example, you gave a GT on Sunday, you spend the next 6 days trying to review few MCQs of that GT every single day. Obviously, you can only do the ones you got wrong or the ones you guessed correctly, the ones where your knowledge was lacking. I would also suggest, now that you have time, why not go through the ones you got right as well, and finding out more information about a topic that you thought you already knew. There is always something more about it which you don't know, and you don't know that you don't know. Reviewing GTs and giving more GTs, it's a big bonus that these extra 5 months are going to give you, so make good use of it. One important thing while solving GTs now is, earlier when you were giving GTs in a very early stage in your preparation, when you had not finished whole entire subjects, you did not have a clue about what was going on in them, your main concern was trying to answer as many questions as possible. But now you have to look at GTs in a more mature way. How many MCQs will you be attempting? How many will you leave for review? How many will you mark for review but you are still going to attempt? What exactly is your plan of action when it comes to time management? How many are you going to leave entirely unattempted and then come back to them later? All this is now going to be crucial, because this is where people make silly mistakes. This is where you end up losing out on MCQs which you could have answered and you could have gotten them right. I'll share what my plan was. My plan was to try and attempt as many MCQs as possible. But I will never leave more than 5 MCQs unattempted in a GT. Imagine out of 5 MCQs which I was unsure about, I attempted all 5 of them and I got 1 wrong, but I got 4 right. The amount of rank shift which those 4 MCQs are going to gain me is going to be so much more than avoiding negative marking by leaving these MCQs unattempted. Where it gets tricky is using all those multiple options of either leaving the question completely untouched or attempting it and marking it for review, or not attempting it, marking it for review. There is so much of this, and at the end of the exam, when you're left with like 10-15 minutes, you're frantically going through that list of questions, trying to make up your mind which one you want to answer first, which one you feel like confirming, you feel like unmarking it for review, or you feel like going through them again for a mental satisfaction. There's a lot of confusion that happens in the last few minutes because of this system. So we're going to completely simplify it for ourselves. I feel like that option of leave unattempted but mark for review, where you're not attempting the MCQ but you're marking it for review, to me that option is useless. You are only going to have 2 sets of questions in the end for you to review, ones which you have left completely untouched. Okay, so these are the MCQs which you're completely unsure about, where you have absolutely no idea what the correct answer is. It's something extremely factual, it is something that you are scared to even attempt. Leave it, so that it's going to be a big red colored question at the end of the exam on your question paper list. It's going to be that big alarming red which reminds you that these are the MCQs you should go to first, because these are MCQs that you're not attempting. These are potential marks that you're losing out on. Let them stay red in color. If you're not attempting something, don't mark it for review also. Leave it unattempted, leave it untouched, let it stay red, so that you are alarmed by just the color on your screen, and you remember at the end of the exam that these are the MCQs you want to go to first. You want to check whether your gut instinct is telling you that a single option is right, whether you can put other tactics into play to solve this MCQ, like ruling out options, deriving something from other MCQs in the paper. All this is very common, it happens very commonly. These are tricks which will help you answer more questions. So you are going to leave MCQs either completely unattempted, or you're going to attempt them and mark them for review, where you feel more than 50% sure about one option but not 100% sure. These are MCQs where you might want to come back and question your line of thinking again. This is something that you know, but in the moment you are either panicking, or there is something about the question that is throwing you off and you aren't entirely sure. But you know this topic, you have read this, you have an idea about it, so you attempt it and you mark it for review. So what happens is, at the end of the exam, suppose you have only 10 or 5 minutes left, you don't have time to go through mark for review questions as well as the unattempted questions. The mark for review ones still stand a strong chance of being correct and fetching you more marks. In those 5 minutes, you prioritize the unattempted questions, you attempt more questions, you leave only maybe 3 or 5 unattempted, then you have attempted as many MCQs as you could have. You have given the most aggressive approach for this exam, and it's going to reflect positively in your scorecard at the end. And after this revision for the next 3 months comes the 2 months before the exam, and out of those 2 months, like you all know, keep 15 days at the end for rapid revision. That is not going to change. We are going to keep those 15 days untouched, and we're going to focus on the 1.5 month prior to that, May and your first half of June. For this time, we are going to really pump it up. We are going to gain that momentum again, which we had gained over December and Jan for the earlier exam date of March. We are going to increase our grand test frequency, which is now going to be 2 GTs per week. We're going to be giving tests on Sunday and Wednesday or Thursday, and we will spend rest of the days reviewing those GTs. The best part about giving more and more GTs right now is that now you are at the end of your preparation. Most of the times when you were giving GTs earlier, it probably happened a lot that some mistakes that you were making were simply there because you did not know a certain thing, you had not read it yet, or you had read it but you did not memorize it. But now that you have finished majority of your revision, you have memorized almost everything that there is to remember. Most of your conceptual doubts are now cleared. So now when you make a mistake, you know for a fact that this is a mistake you are likely to make in the exam. This is not a mistake that you've made because you have not read a subject yet, or you have not practiced that subject yet. You have done all of that, and despite all of that, you're making a mistake. So your mistakes are becoming high yield now. The mistakes which you're making in the GTs now at this stage of preparation are going to give you the most valuable information on where your preparation is lacking. So we are going to make a list of topics which we are repeatedly getting wrong in GT. You always seem to get confused in this, no matter how many GTs you give. You're going to put this in a list where you know for a fact that now you have read this as many times as you could have. Now getting this MCQ wrong is not just about your lack of reading, it's about a lack of conceptual understanding. This is a high yield mistake which you are making, which when fixed and if fixed can fetch you good marks in the final exam, because this is probably something that everybody else is getting right but you are not, because it's a weak topic for you. So when you rectify these weak topics for yourself, you are going to jump higher in ranks like you never could have imagined. The weak topics you have might not be so weak for everybody else. We're not going to leave any stone unturned. We are going to find these tedious mistakes which you're making in all the grand tests. We're going to make a list and we are going to be prepared with this list for rapid revision, where we'll have this list ready for every single subject. And once we go through this, we will feel so confident and we are going to feel so bold that I have made every single mistake in this topic possible and I have corrected that mistake in all the GTs that I've given. So now if this comes in the exam, there is no way in hell that I'm going to get it wrong. That is the kind of confidence we are going for in the last 1.5 months of May and the first half of June. So focus on building that kind of confidence by solving multiple GTs. Now whatever revision you are doing, you can stick to the shorter version of notes which you've made, the 20th notebook, chota copy of everything that you've summarized so far. This is a good time to use it. We have more GTs to solve, so we can read a more concise version of everything. When you're going through the shorter version of your notes, you can keep an eye out on whether these notes of yours are covering important PYQ topics. If there's anything that you're missing out, please make it a point to add it to this, because your end ka rapid revision is going to be solely from these notes. It should not happen that you're missing any PYQ topic 15 days before the exam. And now we come to the end game, that is the rapid revision days, which will be your last 15 days of June, where you try and finish one quick rapid revision of everything so that you can finally say you're done and dusted with one subject fully before the exam. Here you're going to try and do one major subject in one day, two minor subjects in one day. In this way, you're going to try and finish all 19 subjects in the remaining 15 days. Don't stress about going through your bigger notes or going through any videos or such. Now is the time for really crisp and concise revision. You're not going to use all these big sources anymore. Now is the time to bring out that list of topics you made during your GT reviews, of your weak points, your weak areas, and the repeated mistakes which you're making. What your day is going to look like during rapid revision. Get up in the morning, go through PYQs. There is anything that is alien or new to you, make sure it does not stay that way by the time you're done with your revision of the subject that day. Then you go through that list of the mistakes which you're continuously making. After all this is done, you go through that concise summarized notes of that subject. That is it. You are done with one entire subject. This is your final day of studying that subject. This is what rapid revision is going to look like for the next 15 days. And coming to the last 2 days before the exam, these 2 days, it's completely up to you what intensity you want to go for when studying. For some people, it works the best if you are laid back, you're not spending every single moment studying, because it stresses you out, reduces your confidence. Confidence makes a big difference. Like if you went to the exam having read 10 more topics but feeling underconfident because you know that there's so much that you don't know, as opposed to you go in there, you haven't read certain topics which you couldn't manage to finish, but you feel confident in everything that you've read, and that's why you feel confident overall. That confidence itself prevents you from making some silly mistakes in the exam, and it gains you more marks than somebody else who has read everything but they're fretting about it. These last 2 days, you have to decide for yourself what makes you feel more confident. For me, I knew for a fact that I have always been somebody who studies right up to the last minute. Even in MBBS university exams, right as we are sitting in front of the exam hall, I used to read and then I would shut the book and enter the exam hall. So this time I was also mentally prepared to do the same thing. It's just that I did not compromise sleep or food or rest for this, whereas I had friends who wanted to relax on the last day and they stopped studying at 5 p.m. the day before the exam. So that worked well for them. You decide what works good for you. I will not tell you to follow one certain thing, because we all work differently. We all have different ways of confronting stressful situations. So that is all the advice I had to give about postponement and about how to study for for the 100th time, but this is one of the last few times when I'm making a video on NEET PG probably, because once the exam is done, once the new toppers are there, then I'm going to step back and I'm going to stop talking about all this, because I know I'm probably not going to stay relevant till then. But till then, I'm just genuinely sharing things which I am looking back on fondly. Like, I'm getting solid nostalgia of last year's Jan and February months, because I really enjoyed studying in those last 2 months. Back then, I used to be so miserable. Like, I had sleeping issues, I had stress issues, and I was fully done with everything. I just wanted to get out of that exam phase. But now I miss it so much. It was a really good phase. I know you guys are probably cursing at me really bad right now, but get to the other side and you will agree with whatever I'm saying right now. So yeah, that's why I wanted to again come out and share whatever I think will make these 5 months of preparation worthwhile for you, and they will be memorable for you. Maybe you'll look back on them and you'll think fondly about how disciplined you were and how hardworking you were, and how all that hard work and all those efforts got you to where you wanted in life. It's going to be great. You guys are going to do great. Hopefully all us first year residents will be getting new juniors by the end of this year, and hopefully you guys will be one of them. So I hope this video was helpful in any way, and I hope it provided some positivity to you guys if you're going through a negative cycle of thoughts. I hope you can push through your own limitations, your self-limiting beliefs which you have, overcome all the mental barriers. You can do it. Put yourself on a pedestal. Every single thing which you're doing right now is going to pay off 10 times when it comes to the actual exam. I wish you guys all the very best, and I hope to see you on the other side with happy faces and proud smiles very soon. So I'll see you all in the next video, whenever that is going to be. Bye bye.